As much time as I spend talking about the Cabiri, I find it interesting. I was looking through. I often look through old Italian manuscripts. One of the ways that I find so much information is that I'll go and just type in like keywords and then look through books and look for hits on those keywords and stuff. So I typed in Camillo Mercurio because I like to go through these old Italian manuscripts that discuss Camillo as Mercury in the Samothracian mystery rites. Um, that was that's the Italian name. The Latin name, the older Latin name is Camillus, but the Italian name is Camillo. As you can see here, Mercury conducted to the infernal regions the souls of the dead. He was called the patron of travelers and of shepherds, the god of merchants, thieves, and pickpockets, inventor of letters, and god of eloquence, for which he has golden chains hanging from his mouth in allusion to his eloquence. The Italian poets call him messenger and interpreter of the gods, inventor of wrestling, Caelinius Camillus. And in Italian, on this side, you see it here, Caelenio, Camillo. And this is the recurring thing. This is just like I said, the Italian name for this character. For the dying and rising god, if you've seen the things that I've talked about before, you might have heard me say before that the reason I had found this information in the first place is because my father and grandfather were both named Camillo, and because of this, I had multiple times told like girlfriends growing up when I was like 12, 13. I had lied to them and I'd like, oh, my secret Italian name is Camillo, and the synchronicities that occur later on in life, as I'm studying these things, it's interesting, right? So I have this interest, this very deep interest in these things, and I've talked very much about the Masonic connection to the Cabirian rites before, and while I had typed in Camillo Cabiri, and then it came up. I saw this website, CabiriInternational.org, clicked on it and recognized this symbol as being the symbol of the Shriners. It's like, oh, that's the Shriners symbolism. That's the Past Potente's jewel is what they call it. And you might recognize the symbol of Islam here, being that Islam is another. It's an Abrahamic faith. It's just one more face of the Abrahamic Leviathan that has encapsulated the minds of humanity. But the Shriners are kind of like they would, in my mind, best be described as like a sect of Freemasonry. That's how they originated. It was within the ranks of Freemasonry in like the 1800s. And this is why you see, here's the Shriners Past Potente jewel, which means, Potente means something like monarch or something like that. But this is why you see, Buzz Aldrin, he was a Shriner, right? Apollo 11, that occult symbolism there behind NASA that's gone into it. I have so many things going through my head at any given time whenever I talk about these things because it's the occult aspect so often gets overlooked as being like, minute or something. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just their little wonky religious beliefs. It's like, there's a reason that I talk so much about the occult side of these things. It's because, for one, it really makes no sense to talk about individual faces or like the hearsay of politics or anything like that because it doesn't matter. What matters is the actual, the broad spectrum of ideology that gets pushed, like the end state that's being pursued, right? And the occult is a huge part of this. We do not live on a planet called Earth. This place is called Earth, but we do not live on a planet called Earth that's a rotating sphere in the solar system and the Milky Way galaxy and so on and so forth. It's one giant lie. No one actually even knows what this realm is, for fuck's sake. And it's through the occult and the understanding of these organizations and how they function that you can gain a better understanding of the ideologies that they propagate, right? Pythagoras, I'm kind of getting carried away here, but Pythagoras, said to be the first Freemason, said to be the so-called progenitor of the globe model. That's why Pythagoras is always pictured with the globe. It's not a joke, these things. It's not a small deal. And this is part of the reason that I try to get people to understand how the occult feeds into their own religions, because that's one of the biggest aspects, is that the occult is the hypostasis, right? These mystery rites like the Cabiri is the hypostasis to world religions. like the Abrahamic faith, but not just the Abrahamic faiths. It influences Hinduism, it influences Zoroastrianism, so on and so forth. Like it's Buddhism. It's huge. It affects every religion, every major religion, and people can't see past it. They cannot get past their own indoctrinated beliefs. Anyway, I popped up into this website, the Cabiri, found out that it's connected to the Shriner, so it's like that confirmation. They have the 8-pointed star here. It's that continuous confirmation of the things that I say. Because sometimes even when I'm talking about these things, I'm sitting there afterwards and I'm like, yeah, but is it really that big of a deal? It's like, yeah, no, the Cabiri, sure enough, this really is like the hypothesis of the rights. They recognize it. They're just generally talking about their membership here. They have a little section here on the Cabirian rights. From the little island of Samothrace and at the northern end of the Aegean Sea came the ancient mysteries of Samothrace and the Cabiri, shrouded in the mist of antiquity. And they go on about, oh, here we go. It has been said that Haram Abif is the master builder in masonry. That's the dying and rising god. That's Mercury right there. King of Tyre was a high priest of these mysteries, and through him the leading feature of the Cabirian initiation was incorporated into masonry and perpetuated in the legend of the third degree. Many conjectures that the order of the Essene or the Essenes grew out of the Cabirian rites. Right, so the secret ceremonies were performed at night in sacred chambers. By initiation, those who before were fellow citizens only became brothers, connected by a closer bond of fellowship than before. So on and so forth. It's these things influence major world religions. The esoteric influencing the exoteric, which has captured the minds of the masses. It's if the numbers are to be believed, it's like at least half of the world population follows some variation of the Abrahamic faith. And then it's ironic that so many people get caught up on this whole Jewish conspiracy theory thing. For one, it's more appropriately relegated to the Semites. If you're going to focus on any group, it's the Semites generally, not just Jews. But if you're a Christian or a Muslim and you get caught up on these Jewish themes, like, oh, Jews, you worship a Jew, right? Like, specifically Christians in particular, but the Abrahamic tradition is a Semitic tradition. Jesus was said to be a Jew, right? It's like, this is the retardation of the people. Like, not that people are literally retarded, but this is the institutionalized retardation of the people. You see what I'm saying here? There's a interesting, I've said before that I can kind of see the future in a sort of roundabout way. Not like literally like, oh, I have a crystal ball and I can see what's going to happen. But through dreams, I have a dream journal that I kept updated for quite some time. And that was when they were really coming to me, when I was writing them down and paying attention, lo and behold. But many of those things came to pass. And I had said before that it was after a symbolic fashion that these things come to pass, where I recognize my dreams. So one of them, before I had read about any of these things, was a initiation. It was an initiation before I got into the mystery rites. And I was being led through a series of, like one of them was like being placed into a coffin and some other things that I can't remember. But the most significant part at the end of the dream that I remember was being led to a chamber where it was like a room. And I was terrified because I was going to be alone, isolated in this place for a while. But I remember being locked into the room, and there was nothing really aside from like a bed maybe, and then like a phrase on the wall, which had some sort of, fortune cookie style wisdom written on it. And then I later had found that there's an action. This is part of the initiation, right? So this is the Chamber of Reflection. Within the context of Freemasonry, the Chamber of Reflection, often abbreviated as COR, and alternatively known as the Room of Reflection, Reflection Cabinet, or Meditation Cabinet, plays a pivotal role in the initiation process in some countries and jurisdictions. This chamber serves as a dedicated space where a critical component of the initiation ritual unfolds, prompting the candidate to undergo a period of isolation designed to foster introspection and self-examination. One sec. So, the experience within the chamber is enriched by the presence of symbolic objects. The isolation period within the chamber of reflection represents the initial phase of the broader initiation ritual. So, yeah, they have like this whole thing where they discuss, how this room is set up and so on and so forth, and they even go to say somewhere in here that that's exactly what they do. Like how in my dream there was just like a thing on the wall that had like a piece, like a saying on it. That somewhere in here they outline how that's part of it, and so it's just like an example of the dreams that I have, and like what I meant by like I can see the future. I know that sounds very woo woo. It's the truth. It is what it is, and I'm not the only one. So, um, it would be ridiculous to think that with all the things that I've said and all of these things that coincide, that it's all a bunch of just meaningless coincidences. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've proven that by now. But, yeah, so I guess the entire purpose of this is just to show some of the connections. Again, it really struck me that it was such a overt, like that these Shriners are identifying with the Cabiri and the Cabiri International, and that there's like over 3,200 members of them, and yeah, it's fascinating stuff. It's stuff that needs to be understood to fully understand the world stage, as it were. There was something else, I guess, pertaining to those initiation rites. I'm not sure it's really worth getting into. It's just like the general initiation scheme was that they would the aspirant or initiate would would fill the role of Mercury, right, like the dying and rising god, and then you would experience. And this is for the Dionysian. This is for the mysteries of Eleusis, Samothrace, Imbros, Limbros, the coast of Troas, and so on. So wherever they're practiced, this is the overarching theme of the Egyptian mysteries is the dying and rising god, where the first part of the ritual you'll go through, and they'll do the things like the chamber of reflection. They'll have a bunch of moaning and wailing and like throwing stuff at the aspirant, leading them through like a couple of nights, like 3 nights of terror or something like that. And then it culminates with the rebirth, and it like switches themes into like a rejoicing at the rebirth of the deity, and this is the Jesus theme. And again, that is partly why this is so important to understand, is like how many spheres of society this stuff really influences, and how few people actually talk about this shit, much less understand it. The few people that do tend to talk about these things have absolutely no fucking clue what they're talking about. None at all. It's like, it's just like one giant joke or something. It's a bunch of, I don't know. It just gets skimmed over. So, yep, that's really all I got for this one. I thought that was interesting, worth sharing. All right, much love.